Picture this: a family gathered around the dinner table, laughing about old memories. But the moment the conversation shifts to retirement plans, the room goes quiet. Has that ever happened in your family? It's not that we don't care. It's that money, aging, and future plans can feel heavy. Yet avoiding these talks may create more stress than peace. Today, let's walk through the top 7 retirement mistakes families often make together, not to point fingers, but to open doors for better bonding, smoother planning, and a retirement that feels less like a burden and more like a shared journey. When retirement is viewed as a solo project, it often places one person at the center of planning and responsibility, while everyone else stays in the dark. This happens more often than we realize. A father may assume he alone has to manage the money, or a mother may quietly plan her retirement years without asking what role her children might want to play. On the surface, it seems practical. One person takes charge, keeps it simple. But in reality, this approach can create confusion, resentment, or even missed opportunities for connection. Retirement isn't just about one person stepping out of the workforce. It's about how the whole family adjusts to a new rhythm of life. Think of retirement like moving to a new home. If only one family member knows the address and has packed their bags, the rest of the household is left guessing where they're headed. The trip might still happen, but it's stressful, and no one feels fully included. When families instead talk openly about what retirement looks like, whether that means moving closer to grandchildren, traveling, or simply staying put and downsizing expenses, the journey becomes shared. Everyone knows the destination, and each person can offer support along the way. Involving family in retirement planning doesn't mean handing over control of personal decisions. It means creating transparency and building understanding. For example, adult children who understand their parents' budget may be more thoughtful about asking for financial help. A spouse who shares in the planning feels less like a bystander and more like a partner. Even grandchildren can feel included when they hear stories about what grandma and grandpa's new chapter will look like. These conversations not only prevent surprises, they also turn what could feel like a lonely project into a collective celebration of what's ahead. Another reason this mistake happens is cultural conditioning. Many of today's retirees grew up in an era where talking about money was considered private. Keeping it quiet was a way of showing responsibility. But in modern families, silence often creates more confusion than protection. Opening up, even in small ways, can break old habits of secrecy and set the stage for trust. At its core, treating retirement as a family project instead of a solo one strengthens bonds. It's not about burdening others, but about inviting them into the story. When retirement becomes our journey, rather than my journey, families often discover new ways to support each other, reduce stress, and build memories together in the years ahead. One of the most common traps families fall into when thinking about retirement is believing that bigger automatically means better. It shows up in many forms: a bigger house to fit everyone, a larger investment portfolio to impress, or a jam-packed calendar of expensive travel and activities. On the surface, it sounds appealing. Who wouldn't want more after decades of hard work? But what many discover is that chasing bigger often adds unnecessary stress and distracts from what truly makes retirement meaningful. Take the example of housing. Some families assume that retirement is the perfect time to buy a larger home so kids and grandkids can visit comfortably. Yet the upkeep, property taxes, and maintenance of that bigger space can quickly drain both energy and savings. In contrast, families who choose a smaller, cozier home may actually find themselves with more time, money, and energy to spend on the things that matter most, like being present with loved ones, traveling when it feels right, or simply enjoying a quiet cup of tea together. Bigger walls, don't always create warmer memories. The same applies to money. Aiming for the biggest possible nest egg can sometimes push families into choices that sacrifice balance. Working extra years, taking on risky investments, or constantly comparing savings accounts to others can make retirement feel like a competition instead of a celebration. In reality, what most people want is security, freedom, and meaningful connections. Having enough is often more powerful than endlessly chasing more. It's like preparing a meal. A huge banquet might look impressive, but a smaller table filled with favorite recipes often leaves everyone feeling more satisfied. Even when it comes to experiences, bigger isn't always better. Families may feel pressure to plan grand vacations or expensive traditions to prove they're making retirement special. Yet some of the most cherished memories come from simple, everyday moments. Teaching a grandchild how to ride a bike, cooking an old family recipe together, or gathering for weekly movie nights. These require very little money, but create a sense of joy and belonging that no luxury resort can replace. The heart of retirement isn't about expanding outward, but deepening inward. Families who let go of the bigger is better mindset often find a surprising sense of relief. They rediscover that what makes life rich is not the size of the house, the length of the bucket list, or the number of digits in the bank account. It's the laughter, stories, and shared time that make the golden years truly golden. Delaying important retirement conversations until a crisis hits is a mistake many families make without realizing it. It often comes from a place of good intention. Parents don't want to worry their children. Adult kids don't want to seem intrusive, and everyone hopes there's plenty of time to figure things out. But the truth is, when these talks are pushed aside, they usually resurface at the most stressful moments, during an illness, an unexpected financial setback, or a sudden need for long-term care. By then, decisions are rushed, emotions run high, and family harmony is tested in ways that could have been avoided. Imagine waiting to check the smoke alarm batteries until you actually smell smoke. Technically, you could still react, but the panic would be far greater than if you'd taken a quiet moment earlier to prepare. Retirement planning works the same way. Families who only talk about money, healthcare, or living arrangements during emergencies often feel blindsided. Instead of focusing on comfort and support, they're scrambling to fix problems in real time. Starting earlier doesn't mean diving into uncomfortable details all at once. It can be as simple as weaving retirement into everyday conversations. Maybe during a holiday dinner, a parent casually mentions their hopes of downsizing. Or during a walk, an adult child asks what kind of activities their parents imagine doing once work slows down. These small, gentle openings keep the topic from feeling like a formal, heavy meeting, and instead make it part of ongoing family dialogue. Over time, these conversations build a shared understanding so that, when decisions do need to be made, they're guided by trust rather than panic. Another benefit of starting early is giving everyone a chance to voice their hopes and concerns. A spouse may quietly worry about healthcare costs, while an adult child may wonder about inheritance or traditions. Addressing these feelings before a crisis ensures that no one feels left out or blindsided. It also allows families to make gradual adjustments, like tweaking budgets, exploring community resources, or deciding together whether moving closer to relatives makes sense. At its heart, delaying conversations until crisis hits robs families of peace. Facing retirement with openness and steady communication creates a smoother path. It turns what could be a moment of fear into an opportunity for bonding, where every family member feels prepared, respected, and part of the journey ahead. When families think about retirement, the focus almost always lands on money, savings accounts, pensions, or healthcare costs. What often gets overlooked are the emotional transitions that come with this stage of life. Retirement isn't just about leaving a job, It's about stepping into a new identity, a different rhythm of daily living, and a shift in how family roles are experienced. Forgetting this piece can create quiet but powerful tension, leaving both retirees and their loved ones feeling unsettled. Consider someone who has spent 40 years in a career. Their sense of purpose, routine, and even self-worth may have been tied to that role. When the job disappears, so does the daily affirmation of being needed in that way. If families treat retirement only as free time and overlook this emotional shift, the retiree may feel lost or undervalued. It's not unusual for spouses to suddenly notice their partner seems restless or irritable. Adult children may wonder why their parent, who now has plenty of time, doesn't seem as happy as expected. What's really happening is an adjustment of identity, not just schedule. The transition also affects relationships inside the home. A spouse who is used to having quiet mornings may suddenly find their partner around all day, every day. That closeness can be wonderful, but it can also create friction if new boundaries and routines aren't discussed. Similarly, adult children may unconsciously keep seeing their retired parents as the providers, even when parents are adjusting to living on fixed incomes. Without acknowledging this emotional shift, old expectations can clash with new realities. One of the healthiest ways to navigate this transition is to talk about it openly. Families can ask, "What do you think you'll miss about work?" Or, "What are you most excited to try now that you'll have more time?" These questions honor the emotional side of retirement, giving space for reflection rather than assuming everything will fall into place naturally. Simple acts of recognition can help retirees feel understood rather than invisible. Retirement is, in many ways, a rebirth. It's a time to redefine identity, rediscover passions, and create new forms of connection. When families remember that the emotional transition is just as important as the financial one, they set the stage for more harmony. Instead of feeling like something has been lost, retirement becomes a chapter where new roles and deeper bonds can emerge. One of the most common surprises families face in retirement is the weight of hidden costs. It's easy to build a plan around the obvious expenses like groceries, electricity, or even travel, but retirement often brings expenses that no one saw coming. Ignoring these can place strain not just on finances, but also on relationships, as family members scramble to cover gaps or argue over who should help. Hidden costs aren't always dramatic, but they quietly pile up, and when overlooked, they can chip away at both savings and peace of mind. Healthcare is perhaps the biggest example. Many people assume basic insurance or government programs will cover everything, but co-pays, medications, and unexpected treatments can add up quickly. Even something as simple as dental or vision care, often left out of standard coverage, can become a steady drain. Families who don't account for these smaller but frequent costs may find themselves dipping into emergency funds or leaning on adult children in ways that feel uncomfortable. Home maintenance is another cost that's easy to underestimate. A roof that needs replacing, plumbing repairs, or even just routine upkeep can demand large sums at unpredictable times. For retirees who plan to age in place, these costs can be as significant as health care. Yet, because they don't appear on a monthly bill, they're often forgotten until a sudden repair throws off the budget. Preparing for these expenses by setting aside a home fund may save a great deal of stress later. There's also the emotional side of hidden costs, such as continuing to support adult children or grandchildren. While many parents are glad to help, ongoing financial support in retirement can create tension if it wasn't planned for. A retiree may feel guilty saying no, while children may assume their parents have more flexibility than they actually do. By discussing these possibilities in advance, families can create healthy boundaries without resentment. Even leisure, which is supposed to be the fun part of retirement, comes with overlooked costs. Hobbies, classes, travel, or community memberships all add joy, but they also require money. Families who assume retirement fun will be free may feel frustrated when expenses creep up. The truth is, hidden costs aren't really hidden at all. They're simply unspoken. When families bring them into the light, they can plan more realistically. Doing so doesn't just protect the budget, it protects family harmony, ensuring that retirement feels like a time of freedom rather than financial surprise. Skipping legacy conversations is one of those mistakes that often comes from love. Families avoid the topic because no one wants to make their parents feel old, or because parents don't want to burden their children with thoughts about inheritance or what happens when I'm gone. On the surface, it seems kinder to stay quiet. Yet silence in this area can create misunderstandings, confusion, or even conflict later on. Legacy isn't just about dividing assets, it's about sharing values, stories, and traditions that keep a family connected across generations. Think of legacy like a family quilt. If no one explains where the pieces came from, the quilt eventually becomes just fabric. But if someone takes the time to tell the stories, this square came from your grandmother's wedding dress, this one from your father's favorite shirt, the quilt becomes priceless. In the same way, families who talk openly about what matters most pass down not only financial resources, but also meaning and connection. When these conversations don't happen, children and grandchildren are left to guess. They may argue over what was meant, for whom, or they may miss out on traditions that could have carried forward. Something as simple as a recipe book, a piece of jewelry, or even a stack of letters can become a powerful symbol of love if families intentionally talk about it. Without those conversations, those same items may gather dust in a box, their stories untold. It's also practical. Clear conversations about wills, trusts, or how a home should be handled can prevent conflict later. Families may assume everyone is all on the same page, but in reality, silence leaves room for misunderstandings. By talking about it early, parents can explain the reasoning behind decisions, and children can ask questions with respect rather than resentment. It's less about dividing things fairly and more about making sure love and intention are felt. The beauty of legacy conversations is that they don't have to be heavy. They can be woven into family gatherings, holiday traditions, or even casual walks. Sharing memories, telling stories, or explaining why a certain tradition matters opens doors for deeper connection. Retirement offers a natural opportunity to start this dialogue, not with fear, but with gratitude. Families who skip legacy conversations may leave gaps. Families who embrace them give future generations a map of where they came from and a stronger sense of who they are. One of the most overlooked parts of retirement planning is the role of shared fun. Families often get caught up in the serious side of things: savings, healthcare, housing, and legacy. While those are important, retirement can start to feel heavy if joy isn't built into the plan. Ignoring the power of shared fun means missing out on some of the richest rewards this season of life has to offer. Fun isn't just entertainment, it's glue. It binds families together across generations, creates memories that outlast money, and keeps retirees feeling connected and alive. Too often, families think fun has to be grand or expensive. They imagine cruises, big vacations, or lavish hobbies. But the most meaningful fun is often simple. Think about a weekly board game night, a backyard picnic, or teaching grandkids a card game you once played as a child. These little rituals create continuity and laughter, and they cost almost nothing. It's not about the size of the event, but the consistency of joy woven into daily life. Without this, retirement can drift into routine and even isolation. There's also a deeper layer here. Shared fun gives retirees a new identity outside of work. When someone leaves their career, they often lose a sense of purpose. Fun activities, especially when shared with family, Offer new roles to step into: storyteller, teacher, mentor, or even playful competitor. These roles reinforce value and belonging, which are just as important to emotional health as financial security is to stability. Fun also has a way of smoothing out tension. Families may disagree about money or care decisions, but laughter during a game or shared hobby can soften edges. It reminds everyone that they are not just financial partners in retirement, but companions in life. This balance helps families face the harder conversations with more patience and goodwill. What's surprising is that building fun into retirement doesn't just benefit the retiree. It enriches the whole family. Adult children who join and feel closer, and grandchildren grow up with vivid memories that strengthen their sense of family roots. Shared fun becomes a form of legacy, just as important as passing down savings or heirlooms. In the end, retirement isn't only about surviving the years ahead. It's about living them well. Ignoring the power of shared fun leaves something essential on the table, while embracing it turns retirement into not just a chapter of rest, but a chapter of joy, laughter, and togetherness. Retirement is not just a financial milestone, it's a family milestone. Avoiding these 7 mistakes may mean less tension, more laughter, and a future that feels lighter for everyone. What about your family? Have you already started having these conversations, or do they still feel too heavy to bring up? Share your story in the comments. Your experience may help another family find the courage to start. And if you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more conversations about family bonding and retirement wisdom.